Beijing, we're joined by the former head of the World Trade Organization, Pascal Lamy. To what degree is the Belt and Road Initiative becoming an engine for future globalization, as he predicted 2 years ago? And from the Republic of Congo, a new highway built through a three-way cooperation of the Chinese, the French and the local Congolese is now up and running. What's the impact on the economic life of this West African nation? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Liu Xin. In the 18 years since China joined the World Trade Organization, the country has worked to open its markets, uphold the principles of free trade and transform itself into the world's second largest economy. Yet when it comes to global governance and multilateralism, one of China's greatest contributions may turn out to be its Belt and Road Initiative. However, just as some critics in the international community cast doubt on the initiative, accusing China of a one-way project and lack of transparency, Pascal Lamy, the WTO's former Director General, agrees that the Chinese-led infrastructure project should focus on creating more cooperative and reciprocal partnerships. Meanwhile, against the backdrop of certain forces who today advocate for greater protectionism and unilateralism, can the Belt and Road Initiative become a powerful engine that drives the future of globalization? Learning from the WTO's own experiences, how can the BRI ensure that its trade partnerships will be mutually beneficial? And how can the BRI contribute to more efficient global governance? Welcome to the first edition of The Point's special series BRI Face to Face, featuring interviews with high-level officials from national governments and international organizations. I was joined in the studio by Pascal Lamy, who served as the WTO's Director General from 2005 to 2013, and Wang, President of the Center for China and Globalization. I started by asking, what are the most meaningful contributions the initiative has made so far?
The forum, the initiative, sort of Belt and Road concept, addresses one of the big problems of this world, which is that we lack infrastructures. So there are, for many populations, there's a deficit of transport, energy, sanitary infrastructure, and we know that this necessitates huge investments, and in conditions that are not always short-term profitable, because these are very long-term investments that only have a return on a 20, 30, 40-year horizon. So in this sense, this Chinese initiative is, I think, extremely welcome in order to fill one of the gaps of, let's say, global governance. It's a concrete, result-oriented initiative. I think now what needs to be done, if I listen to my European colleagues, if I listen to people from ASEAN, India, there has to be a feeling that this is not a one-way initiative, and that it's really something that leads to more cooperation. And cooperation is co-something. It sometimes is seen in some parts of the planet as China investing, China running, Chinese businesses having the contracts to build these infrastructures, to operate these infrastructures. So I wish for the future of the initiative, for its sort of friendliness, I think it could be made a bit more reciprocity, a bit less one-sided, so that not only finance, other than Chinese finance comes in, other than Chinese
But I think there's a dilemma here. There's a dilemma here. Because of the doubts, the suspicion, the kind of misunderstanding, China has been trying to talk to the world about this initiative, and people, some countries more, some countries less, have been reluctant to be on board. So far there has been some kind of a strong, a lot of drum has been beaten by the Chinese side. Is that part of the reason why this has been very much an initiative driven by China?
It possibly is one of the reasons that the Chinese leadership has insisted on the importance of that. But I think, I've been running trade negotiations. I know how business operates. I think a bit more transparency on the conditions, on who gets what, under which conditions, would be good. And would probably, if you're right that there is some sort of suspicion, help alleviating these suspicions. After all, transparency is the best antidote against suspicion.
Right. So, Professor Wang, let's talk about this design of this initiative being mutual, everything being based on mutual consent, mutual consultation, and mutual benefits. But why is the perception so far that China has been leading it, or China has been driving it? Is it reality, or is it misconception?
I was the other day in Hamburg, this huge harbor in the north of Europe, in Germany. I was told that thanks to the Belt and Road Initiative, now 30 trains a week travel from Hamburg to southern China. Now, this is something very concrete, which everybody understands, and people who are told that 30 trains now, thanks to the Belt and Road Initiative, go from Hamburg to, they like it.
Yeah.
They will think, oh, that's a good thing. They're not going to think, oh, China is trying, to push its tentacles to unknown regions. They realize that this is good for them.
What, Professor Wang, will this Belt and Road Forum focus to address? I mean, to tackle these individual problems, or really to take a good look, long and hard, at where to go from here to the next 5 years to address, for instance, the sustainability of the loans?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great event. I think that 2 years ago we had the first summit. At that time, we were still promoting the concept. It's the first world leader gathering on this new project. Second time this year is much widely, so BRI is already a concept everybody probably aware of now. Now is how to we deeply implement that, how to get more international collaborations, how to get more standards raised, how to have more third country. Also, we have the first G7 country now participating in that. So how to get more internationally environment, more business involvement. This time we have a business summit along with the Belt and Road Summit. So there's much improvement this time. But maybe we could further get maybe AIB involved, World Bank involved, ADB involved, and we can get WTO involved, and then maybe get it more kick off the ground to the benefit of the countries involved.
Okay. What's your expectation of this initiative, though, Mr. Lamy? You said it could be an engine for the future of globalization. Imagine we're 20 years from now, looking back. What do you think this initiative has as a potential in terms of the long-term development of human society, human history?
Accelerating the disposition of essential necessary infrastructures, that is the sort of lung of the economy. My own view, for what it's worth, is that this planet will keep globalizing, that international exchange will keep growing, goods, services, people, money. This necessitates pipes which are large enough to sustain the growth of this international exchange, and the Belt and Road is part of the necessary pipery. So the more these pipes address the flows that they have to sustain, the better it will be, and the more it will make life better for people. I'm a big believer, in open trade. Not that it solves everything. There are winners and losers, and you've got to take care of the losers. But there are more winners if proper infrastructures, be they, again, transport, be they energy, be they telecom,
I
are there.
understand. Yeah, I understand the need for the losers to be taken care of, because that is explaining the kind of suspicion towards globalization that we're seeing. But infrastructure, is that enough? I mean, if countries, if domestic governments are not taking
Agreed.
care of these problems.
I totally agree with you. A large part of this winner-loser equation has to be taken on board domestically.
But they're looking
these
at
big
protectionism.
There is protectionism in Washington, yes. Much less elsewhere. A lot in Washington, a bit in Delhi, not much elsewhere so far. And again, back to these infrastructures, it's a good thing to make trade possible by opening trade. But it's even better to make trade happen. And sometimes trade is possible, but it doesn't happen. Why? Sometimes it's a lack of production capacity, whether goods or services. Sometimes it's a lack of infrastructures. Look at Africa, for instance. Africa is a very large continent, which is divided into 50 countries. One of the problems of Africa's development is a lack of proper infrastructure. And I think there's nowhere on this planet where it's so obvious.
Yeah.
So it's an essential condition.
You're talking about pipes, which is a very interesting term, because that reminds me to what people have been using to describe Huawei, or what Huawei has been calling its own product, which is pipes. Basically, they're not taking care of what's flowing in the pipes, the information in the telecom structure, but they're only building the infrastructure, the equipment. So there is the question, if Belt and Road, if the surname of Belt and Road is China, will the world be happy with a widespread Chinese piping network?
Well, I don't think so. I think there's a bit over concern there. Actually, what I always said, even on the Huawei story, is that look, China has built up probably the fastest infrastructure in terms of speed railways, 5G networks. And then because of the large market share size of the practical practice and project, like China has 1 billion smartphone users. So Huawei has actually generated its most advanced public technology out of this gigantic market practice. So that knowledge they accumulate should benefit the world, not just China have for itself, including its infrastructure.
We think it this way.
Yeah. Yeah.
We want it.
So,
yeah, we believe that this should be the case.
Exactly.
But other people,
Yeah.
the United States, for instance,
Yeah.
who has been leading these kind of international assistance or development
That's right.
projects, they probably see the Belt and Road in a very different light.
So that's why I think we have a heavy work to do ahead of us, is to really better explain and through the concrete practice examples, and to show that this has really benefited the world, and also get more people involved on that, more consultation, more participation, third country cooperation, even multilateral companies, Huawei and other companies can work together, rather than just Chinese company alone. So I think there's many things we can do to improve that. I'm sure that people will realize the benefit. Just China welcomed all the multinational coming to China. When China opened up, China learned enormously and benefited enormously from multinational operations in China. Why, China now has its own version of that, cannot benefit the rest of the world?
That was my guest, Pascal Lamy, the former Director General of the World Trade Organization, and Wang, President of the Center for China and Globalization. You're watching The Point. Coming up after a short break, our new BRI in Action series will look at a vital infrastructure project that a Chinese construction company has helped to build and run in West Africa.